Is Archibald a good unit in triangle strategy? Let us discover the answer to this question. All right, so Archibald, he is a glass cannon archer. So he has good single target damage. He has some range, but he has very poor mobility, low health, and lower medium defense. So he can get one-shotted by most bosses. He can get two-shotted by most enemies, and he is extremely frail, and he has very poor movement. So right now he has 4 movement, but that's with an upgrade. So he has default 3 movement. So keep that in mind when you run him. A lot of people really like him. They like him for his single target damage, and his single target damage is good. Personally, I'm not a fan of him because in my eyes, he's just a worse Huette. Because Huette has mobility, damage, and shutdown, and Archibald just has damage, and then he also has an attack that can hit really far away. And he also has a big AoE attack that needs to be charged, but I'll go into all of his moves in a second. And that second is right now. Okay, so default attack deals decent damage, range 2 to 4. You can see the height modifiers there, so you can hit up to +8 or -20. Neat. Then we have edged arrow. So you can see here the height modifiers aren't as good, so you can only hit plus or -5 height. So his basic attack can be shot, like it can hit lower and higher elevations, whereas like his special abilities generally can't. It does less base damage, but it has armor ignoring. So this can hit harder depending on the enemy's armor than a basic attack. If the enemy has very low armor, it still probably will hit more, to be honest. So, especially in hard mode. It's really good against bosses or enemies with high defense. It's just good. It's good chip damage. Shaves off like 20% of an enemy's HP in general. It's pretty good. Next we have Sniper. Increase the damage the further the enemy is. So if you're on high ground shooting at things, you get damage increase from high ground. And if you also can get a range increase from shooting on high ground. So you can get some insane damaging shots off with Sniper and just using the Bow of Serenity basic attack. So this is a pretty good passive. Definitely one of the better passives. Archers want to shoot things that are far away, so this is exactly what an archer wants to do anyways. So you don't have to kind of play around it. It's just kind of out of the box, shoot things, good, type of thing. All right, arrow spray. Deal physical damage to all enemies within range. This is like a close range AoE that can hit multiple foes. It does significantly less damage. Well, I wouldn't say significantly. It does less damage than either of these abilities, but it's an AoE, so that's the trade-off. So it's pretty good. Second Sight. Increase the range of your normal attacks by 1. So this is only primary weapon attacks, no abilities. So this does not increase ability range. So it's decent. Combined with Sniper and High Ground, Bow of Serenity, like basic attacks, with Second Sight, can be pretty damaging. So High Ground plus range increase plus Sniper, pretty good. Sticky Arrow. This one's kind of weird. You can use this. It does no damage. You can use this and then use another ability. It costs 1 TP. It lowers a single enemy's evasion. So this is only really good against enemies that have high evasion, which there aren't very many of those. And generally, they can just be hit with magic anyways. So these are like thieves and assassins and stuff like this. So this is like a kind of mediocre ability. There's circumstances where it's useful, and it's fine to use because then you can act again. So it's whatever. It's not like the best thing. It's not the worst thing. It's a evasion reduction on an enemy that you can use as needed, and then you can follow it up with an attack yourself. So it's decent. I mean, it's not like good. It's not bad. It's just kind of whatever. It's just like a utility that sometimes is useful. So if it did a little bit of chip damage, I'd say it's good. But the fact that it hits for 0 damage in my eyes, it just makes it kind of whatever. All right, Inescapable Arrow. This is one of his best abilities. This lets him shoot. You can see here the range 1 to 12. So Inescapable Arrow plus Sniper is insane. You can, if you hit something at the max range, it gets damage scaled. And also if you're on high ground, it gets damage scaled. And he can hit a target very far outside of enemy caster range. So if you use in tandem, if you use now, if you use fast acting medicine, you can have him Inescapable Arrow something, and then have him go again and Inescapable Arrow it again, assuming he's at max TP or is being fed TP from a battery. And he can just straight up nuke things out of their effective range and like take out mages or just finish off a target from anywhere on the map. So the downside of Archibald is that he's frail and has bad movement, but the upside is that he has really good reach and decent damage scaling with his reach. And then this ability, this in my eyes is what makes him really good. A Swift End. Chance to instantly kill an enemy when their HP is at or below 50%. So some bosses are immune to instant kill, some aren't. But the chance is actually pretty good. It's like on average like 30 to 40, sometimes 50% chance. So he can just shoot an enemy that's just at 50%, and or just like 40 to 50, like any 50 or below. But he can chip damage an enemy and it'll just instant kill them randomly sometimes. So this is really good. This is one of the better abilities in the game. But it's on a frail unit that has bad mobility, so it's kind of like the downside of him. But the upside is decent. So he does do good damage. And then we have Piercing Arrow, charge for 1 turn. So you can hit up to 10 squares, and it also ignores defense. So this is something you would, if enemies are in a line, you would use it and then use in tandem, use now, use fast acting medicine, because very likely by the time another turn passes, a lot of those enemies will have either moved or will be dead. So yeah, you can't predict where the enemies are going to position unless there's only one place for them to go. And in this game, enemy AI's position is very unpredictable in a lot of situations. So you would want to in tandem this, or increase the turn order so this pops off. This is a strong ability though, and this could do huge damage in ignoring defense on up to 10 enemies, which at most you'll probably be getting like 5 or 6 if you're lucky in a row. But it probably on average will be hitting like 2 to 4. So it's still pretty good AoE damage. So he has good single target damage, good range, and good AoE damage. And he can also spike things down with a Swift End. So that's his kit. So we know he has bad movement. We know he's frail under fire, has decent damage output. He has really good accuracy. All of his other stats are quite bad. Like his speed is some of the lowest in the game. So his priority in turn order is quite low. He usually goes last, so that's something to keep in mind when running him. He has the lowest jump. A few units have 2 jump. This is the lowest. So with low movement and low jump, he can't climb high ground. So unlike Huette, who can just fly to high ground easily, and she has great movement, he can't. He needs something. He needs like a Hasabara to throw him. He needs like a Quahog to teleport him. He needs help. He's an old man. He needs help climbing that high ground. So that's like the big gimmick there. All right, let's look at his upgrades. There he is. All right. Okay, so he is a damage dealer, so you definitely want to prioritize his damage upgrades. You have a +5, a +5, and a +10. These do also scale the damage dealt by attack skills. So weapon potency scales your weapon's damage, and it scales your ability damage. So this is confirmed. People have tested this. This is what it does, including for mages. Like if a mage like Azana has a staff, she actually gets scaled magic damage by getting these. So you want to get these. They're important. All right. Next he has health. He is very frail, so getting him any health you can is good. With really good play, positionally, you can avoid having him get hit, but that can be hard on some maps with pop-up spawns or a ton of enemies. So any amount of health on him will help him survive. So I'd recommend getting it, but it's not the priority. You want your damage first, and then I would say accuracy is next. And definitely speed +1 because he needs it so bad. And then you have this ability. So if you have Azana create a Tempest, or if there is a Tempest on the map, he deals increased damage. Now the reason why this is good is because his accuracy is quite high. So Tempests decrease all archers' accuracy on the board. So he'll essentially become like a dominant archer that has better accuracy than other archers and gets damage scaling. And will just, contribute to damage even more. And at the same time while passively reducing enemy archer effectiveness. So can be quite useful to run with Azana. Speed +1, his speed's terrible, he needs this. Movement +1, his movement by default is 3. So it's very annoying to run him, to be honest. Like, he needs something to move him around, so you kind of have to accommodate for him. But you need this so badly. 3 movement is literally, I think that's the lowest movement of any unit in the game that's playable. So he has the worst movement. So getting this at least puts him at 4. So you want this badly. And then we have increases damage dealt by crits. This is decent. His luck, I think, was like kind of average. I'll double check it really quick, but whatever. You can shoot things in the back for crits too, so it doesn't have to always be luck-based randomness. All right, and then we have increases the range of normal attacks by 1. So this is not attack skills like abilities. This is just normal attacks. So he can get +2 normal range from leveling and getting this ability for his basic attacks. So this is good because he has sniper. So this is good. I would say damage is a little bit better because most of his big damage comes from his like abilities, but you eventually do want this. And piercing arrow, if you're running Medina, this can be good. If you're not as much. Benedict is decent, but now is kind of hard to set up consistently. It's much easier to get to spam 2 TP abilities than it is to spam 3 TP. So I would say if you're running Medina, this is good. But between the 2 of these, which is better, I would say this is probably slightly better because you can always in tandem this. You can always Benedict now this. You can always Medina this. Or alternatively, you can 2-fold turn, which I think that's one of the big reasons 2-fold turn even exists. So if you 2-fold turn this, he'll charge it and then shoot it. So that can be hugely useful. All right, so let's actually just go back to his stats again really quick. I'm pretty sure his luck was lower. That matters for non-back crits. Yeah, he has low luck. So he has a low chance of scoring crits that aren't to the back. So he does have increased crit damage. See, this is another problem with his kit. He has increased crit damage, but he can't reposition himself to get easy back crits. So like Huette can easily fly to other high ground and then shoot an enemy in the back for crits. So he can't do that. And his luck is running out, we'll say. All right. Okay, so for positioning, it's very simple, to be honest. Like, he's probably like the easiest character to go over for positioning. We'll just use... I guess we can use this map, whatever. I like to do these low-level ones just so I can show like what's going on. And I don't have to like worry about units dying and stuff like that and like actually beating it because it's just for like a quick demo. All right, unit placement. So, we don't have him out right now. All right, let's grab him. Okay. So we would put him, do something like this. So he would want to be up like on high ground. So let's just start the battle. He's gonna go really far back, like he's gonna be last in the turn order. But he's a glass cannon, high damage, low durability, low mobility. He wants to be protected. They give you a lot of units on this map. What the hell? There's like, oh, you have 50 turns. That's why. All right, so we'll just in tandem him. Do this. Another thing you can do is you can light wave him as well. So if you want, so here's light wave. This is another tool you can use in the beginning of a match. In my eyes, this is like a waste of time. I'd rather just have Huette. But like not to run him in general, but to waste 2 quietest points just to do this. So you can like put him on high ground right away. Or you can use Time Child, which is broken. And everyone knows it's broken. Alright, so he's on high ground. These are low-level enemies. They'll get one-shotted anyways. But you can kind of see, here's like the range of Inescapable Arrow. It's quite insane. So he can pick things off out of range. This is, in my eyes, this is the big upside to him, is Inescapable Arrow. The rest is decent, but I think Inescapable Arrow is the #1 reason you'd use him over Huette. Because Huette is more consistent and has conditions that shut enemies down. So I just don't... And she can grab high ground. Like, she just fits into a team comp easier. She doesn't need to be accommodated for. She's just a better unit, in my opinion. He can deal good damage, but Huette can also deal damage and shut things down, which in a game where they often spam enemies is really useful. So like Sticky, like he has no utility, he has no shutdown at all, and he has. I mean, you wouldn't expect a damage dealer to have healing, but he doesn't have healing either. But he doesn't. He just has damage. And the only case I think that's acceptable to only have damage is if you have AoE damage. So Roland is basically just a unit that has mobility and damage. So he has 7 move and good weather, and then with rush, which he can use for 2 if you use the upgrade, you can have essentially 10 move. So let's just use one of these. I'll show the other attacks too, because this is a video for this guy. Okay, so there's sticky arrow, so we can use this and then go again. It reduces evasion, does no damage. There's an inescapable arrow, shoots really far. You have arrow spray, so you can see the range on this. So this is like a point blank. It's not gonna let me do it, but you can see the range. It's like a point blank attack that hits. It doesn't hit all of those, it just hits in one direction. So you can see the pattern, like the pattern that's in front of him is the pattern it will hit. So depending on which direction he's facing when you use the attack, and you select which direction too, it'll shoot all of those squares for some chip damage, so it's decent. And then edged arrow. You can see here that this enemy is not far away from him, and this is a fully upgraded Archibald. Like this is another reason why I'm not a huge fan of him. Like I think he's a good unit that can deal damage and can pick things off at range, and that's like his purpose. But he has a hard time just hitting things. Like he's an archer that has like kind of mediocre range outside of 2 abilities, and his primary. Well, let me see if I'm running Hugh at this mission. Yeah, I am. Okay, so let's just like shoot this. Let's compare him to Huette. So let's get to Huette's turn. All right, and then here we have Roland. So here's why Roland is like nutty. Like he's got AoE damage. Like he's just got movement and damage. That's so good. Like okay, here we go. As an enemy. Damage without movement is still good, but it's not as good. Okay, so here's Huette. So let's look at her range. So seemingly much farther range out of the gate. Some of her abilities are similar, I guess. So like shadow stitching, blinding arrow. So I guess she has like similar range problems. But she can grab high ground, which increases her range. And she can do stuff like this where she can fly. And she also has like, what, 6 movement, I think? 5 movement? Okay. But she can grab high ground, so that's the key. And she can do stuff like this and like maybe immobilize a guy. And then she has this ability, which is okay. So I guess both of their primaries have good range, but hers seems to be a little bit further. Maybe it's not 2 to 7. Let's see. Oh no, she has a rise in range. That's why she gets +1 for her first attack. So she has mobility and shutdown. He has pure damage and slightly better range because of 2 of his abilities. So I guess they are comparable in that way. But I would much rather have Huette because mobility in a game like this is huge. We're not going to talk about Rudolph right now. I still need to play more rounds with him, but he seems to have a little bit of everything. He seems fine. A lot of these archers. There's like a lot of archers for some reason. I don't know why that is, but... So yeah, that's Archibald. He's very simple. Glass cannon, keep him away from things, pick things off. 2-fold turn for his charged attack, or, you know, TP, or what was it? I was going to say TP Physic, but fast-acting medicine, now, in tandem. These are all tools you can use to get his charged attack off. You can feed him TP, you know, his TP pills, so that he can shoot things with an escapable arrow that are really far away and kill them, which is good. That's the big upside. He has more damage than Huette, but Huette has more like durability, grabs high ground, is like basically tanky from evasion from being up high. Her average stats are much better too. Her physical defense is a little higher. Magical defense is similar. Her jump is insane. Her evasion's much better. Speed's much better. Her accuracy isn't as good, but she's generally accurate enough to land hits. But they're pretty comparable units, except that one is more mobile and the other is more damaging. So yeah, that's Archibald. He's pretty good. He's just good at shooting things. That's what he does. It's his whole kit. You just shoot things and move him slowly. So if you like damage, you'll like him. So that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you like this type of content. I'm going to be finishing up the other, I think, 14 characters. I checked the amount of tutorials I made on units. I have half of them done. This is the 16th, so we're getting there. I have to still unlock 2 more units. I just got Trish. Maxwell is still not. I still need like resources to upgrade his thing. I've completely beat the game for a third time, and I like the quietest or the sundry shop isn't updating resources, so that's annoying. So I might have to straight up beat the game again just to get upgrade components, because I sold some of them for money because I thought, okay, it's just going to refresh every playthrough, but maybe that's not the case. But and also drop a comment, let me know what you think about the content and if you have anything to add. And yeah, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.